I go.
What's good, everybody out there on YouTube? This is your man Shadow Stick dropping some hot frogga on this mic. Today we're going to be talking about Mario 3D All-Stars, but before that I actually want to talk about the Mario Direct in general and all the stuff and just some of my opinions on it before we dive into the real meat and potatoes of this video. But before we move on, if you aren't already subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really helps out. Make sure you hit that notification bell, and if you wind up liking this video, hit that like button. We're going to try to reach 25 likes for today's video, I guess. Don't worry, more content coming soon. But recently, if you've been living under a rock, Nintendo had a blowout of information in a Nintendo Direct about the 35th anniversary of Mario, and I'm assuming this is stuff we were going to get around E3, but we didn't have E3 this year, sadly, so we had to get it in this Direct, and it was amazing. It's one of the best Nintendo Directs we've ever gotten, and there was a lot of stuff there. My favorite thing there was the Super Mario 3D World port to the Nintendo Switch, which seems to be an enhanced port with a lot more content, that being included in the Bowser's Fury part of it, with more refined gameplay, most notably the gameplay being a lot faster and there being some more attacks and moves that you can do to use your character and move them around and do more attacks. It just seems to be a much better experience all around, and Mario 3D World is one of my favorite Mario games, so I'm glad to see it coming to the Nintendo Switch. On top of that, we got Mario 35, which is a Mario Battle Royale made in the style of Tetris 99 by the Tetris 99 team, and this thing looks amazing. Honestly, it's one of the coolest things there, but it shares an issue that another game we're going to be talking about later on has. And then on top of that, we got the Mario and Game & Watch Limited Edition Game & Watch. It looks pretty cool. It has the original Super Mario Brothers along with Super Mario Brothers 2, also known as Super Mario Brothers The Lost Levels over here in the West. And we also got Mario Kart Live, which is this cool AR game that utilizes an actual Mario Kart, kart figure thing that has a camera on it, and it turns whatever living space or area you have IRL into a Mario Kart track with these little track posts that you put around your living room or outside in your driveway, wherever you want to be. It looks really interesting, and while it's not something for me, I can really appreciate it. I wonder how it's going to be in actual execution though. And then on top of that, we got a bunch of cool little tidbits, a lot of shirts and overalls and just clothing stuff. We even have a Splatfest related to Super Mario coming out, which is crazy. And we're even getting Mario Pumas along like how we got the Sonic the Hedgehog Pumas earlier this year and at the end of last year. Overall though, the Mario 35th Anniversary Direct was pretty great. But there was one more thing announced in that Direct, and again, this is one of those where there's smoke, there's fire, and it was Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which is something that everybody has been asking for, which has been rumored and leaked through high heaven. We knew this was coming, and I'd be surprised if it wasn't there. But honestly, I was really excited, but then some news came out later in the day detailing some of the stuff in the game, and it makes it kind of a really just a controversial release for Nintendo, and for the Mario franchise as a whole. So let's just jump into it. One of the first issues with the game that people has is just, in general, it being really kind of just up-resing things. Mario 64 is only at 720p 30 frames per second, and I suspect that's because they're using emulation rather than straight porting it using, the source code and stuff. But even then, I find that unacceptable. I know why it's 720p, because again, I think it's emulation and they're using integer scaling, and if I remember correctly, most Nintendo 64 games ran at 240p, and 720p is a perfect integer scale for 240p, whereas 1080p isn't, so it makes a cleaner image or something. There's something there that makes it better to scale to 720p rather than 1080p basically. But then again, we know the Mario source code is out there. We have it. The average consumer can go online and find the Mario 64 source code. So why isn't there a straight port of Mario 64 to the Nintendo Switch with widescreen support? That's another issue. It doesn't have widescreen support. It's in 4:3, which again, if they wanted to have a 4:3 mode and a 16:9 mode, that's cool. Especially even if they had like filters and stuff. I think that'd be really cool. But as far as us, the end user, we don't know if that's in there at all. So a lot of people are worried and rightfully upset about that. On top of that, Mario Sunshine, which is it's a phenomenal game and a phenomenal looking game on the GameCube, is still running at 30 frames per second, which it ran originally on the Nintendo GameCube, but many people would have thought Nintendo would have done something to actually make it run at 60 frames per second and make the game a lot smoother, because it is considered the best controlling Mario has ever been in a 3D environment. And to have that in 60 FPS would have been amazing. But again, it's only 30, and that compounded with the lack of GameCube controller support is worrying. Now, why is it important that we have GameCube controller support in this game? Well, that's because the Switch does not have analog triggers, which is really important in that game. One of the main mechanics in Super Mario Sunshine is FLUDD, and it relies heavily on the analog triggers on the GameCube, meaning that they have to remap and redo how FLUDD functions completely, meaning it won't be a one-to-one experience. Now, I'm not saying it was going to be a one-to-one experience, but it'd be great if we had GameCube controller support for the people who, have that peripheral to play the game with, can use it. I mean, other Nintendo Switch games are taking advantage of the GameCube controller and GameCube controller support on the Nintendo Switch. Why is Nintendo not? It's kind of ridiculous. The next big thing people are upset about, though, is the limited release, which made me mad. That was the thing that really pushed me over. I wasn't really concerned about the up-resing and everything, because those games scale really well. Mario 64, not so much, because it's a 5th generation game, and that was the first generation where we really had 3D. But Super Mario Sunshine in 1080p, if you run it in Dolphin, looks amazing. There's not much that they have to do in terms of making that game look better outside of redoing some of the textures. But overall, that game already kind of looked amazing and looked ahead of its time. The same thing with Super Mario Galaxy. We really didn't need any overhauls. We just all we needed was up-resing of, the game's resolution and the textures. That's really it. But this next part makes people really mad, and that's the limited release. Now, many people thought initially that this meant, just the physical release of this game. The physical release is the only thing that's going to be limited, right? No. Both the digital and physical release are going to be limited. And this is a really big issue because it causes the game to be harder to preserve, and on top of being harder to preserve, it makes it less attainable for the end user. Maybe someone doesn't have money, maybe someone's not aware of Mario, or they're not into the series, but they decide they want to get into the series, and they hear about the Mario 3D All-Star Collection, and then this happens, and they can't buy it digitally anymore, so that inflates the price of the physical copy even more, and you have scalpers selling the game on eBay for $100, $200, $300. It's ridiculous, honestly, especially because we would lose 3 of gaming's best games ever created. One of the games quite literally changed the landscape of gaming forever, that being Mario 64. It is historically one of the most important games to ever come out, and to have one less option to play that game is kind of ridiculous. Now, why is Nintendo doing this? They're doing this to artificially up the demand and create more demand in the user, because you as a user know that you can't essentially have it after a certain amount of time, so you'll have to immediately buy it. And I really do think this is the reason, because the limited release quite conveniently ends at the end of Nintendo's fiscal year. So I'm not putting it past Nintendo, knowing how greedy them and many other big gaming monolith companies are. I'm not surprised that they're doing this. And it's not consumer friendly at all. It's really ridiculous. What I think they're going to do is they're going to backpedal in quotation marks, because I don't think this is going to be a limited time release in the slightest. I think when March rolls around, Nintendo's going to be like, I'm sorry guys, the game, it's actually not a limited release. We're going to continue to keep it up on the eShop. We're going to continue to print copies. Again, this is Mario's big anniversary collection, so the best way to create demand is to artificially make it, despite it being Mario, gaming's most valuable intellectual property. And that leads into my final point, and that is this collection worth $60? And that debate has been going on Twitter, and in my honest opinion, I think it is worth $60. Don't get me wrong, there are some issues, but overall it's still Mario, and there's not much that needs to be done to these games to actually bring them into the modern day and age. I'd like to have seen them do something more specifically with Mario 64, but Mario Sunshine and Mario Galaxy already look amazing. There's not much that they have to do to make the games look better. Would I like to see something more graphically, I guess, sound? Yeah, but still, they look amazing to this day. I mean, it is 3 games. Had these games been sold separately for like $15, $20, I mean, I'd buy them all, you know, for that price, and then I'd wind up paying $60 anyways. And I think that's the case with most people. I don't think that's the issue. Again, Mario is gaming's most valuable intellectual property. There's no other franchise on the planet that you could, you know, say is ending that would shatter the gaming world. If you said to somebody right now that the Call of Duty franchise was ending today, the gaming world wouldn't really be, it'd be upset at first, but they'd get over it. But if Mario ended today, it wouldn't be the same. It just wouldn't. There's very few series in this industry that come close to Mario. So the inherent value is there. Well, again, while I said, you know, technically they've done the bare minimum, Nintendo games, like I said before earlier in this video, tend to look even better when scaled up, and their games are often seem to be made for them to be able to scale in the future. I mean, think about it. A lot of the times people will just drop these games into emulators and then up the resolution, and magically they look like a current gen or next gen game half the time. I mean, look up Super Mario 3D World, you know, in CMU at max settings. It looks better than 99% of the catalog of the PS4, Xbox One. And that's ridiculous because the Wii U was the most underpowered console of its generation, this generation. So there is that. The last point I want to touch is kind of the comparison to Spyro and the Crash collections, because those were admittedly, I think, $40 when both of them released, $40-$50. And I will say this, those games kind of needed graphical overhauling a lot more than something like a Mario Sunshine, Mario Galaxy, and even Mario 64, because on top of the PlayStation 1 just being, you know, even more underpowered than the Nintendo 64, the games just inherently looked worse. So those games needed that a lot more than, say, for instance, a Mario 64, and especially like in comparison to Sunshine and Galaxy. Like Galaxy and Sunshine poop on those games graphically. I mean, let's be real. A lot less work needed to be done. And then there's always that conversation of, you know, should we upgrade the games to bring them up to the standards of today, or should we preserve them? I'm on both sides with this one, but, you know, I'll ask that to you guys. Do you think these games need to be overhauled like the Crash Bandicoot and Spyro collections, or do you think they needed to preserve them, or have a combination of both? I don't know. That's just how I feel on that subject. So I don't really take a big stance on either side, because I see where both sides come from, and depending on what game it is, I'm on one side or the other. But again, guys, this has been your man Shattuck Stick. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Again, let's try to get this video to 25 likes. It'd be highly appreciated. Excuse the crappy Mario Odyssey gameplay. I haven't played the game in a minute, and I decided with Mario's anniversary being this year and the upcoming collection, I'd pop in Mario Odyssey for a bit. But this has been your man Shattuck Stick. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Share this video out with your friends. And remember, Hot Faraga turns to Cold Blizzaga. Chill out with some of my other videos. Follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Links to merch are down in the description below. Peace. Kiss.